Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. Today we're going to talk about field tips versus broadheads. You're not going to want to miss this one. So let's start with talking about field tips. So there's lots of different designs. I'm just going to briefly show you two here. And the first thing that you're going to notice when you look at these field tips is, what are they? They're basically bullet shaped, right? So it's all about aerodynamics. They're in the same line and plane and diameter as the arrow shaft. And of course, these are going to fly immensely well. Now, the second you change what's at the other end of your arrow, whether it's a fixed, a hybrid, or a mechanical, you have changed your arrow. So there's a lot of talk about my broadhead should shoot exactly like my field tips. And to most extent, that is very true if your bow is tuned and your arrow is tuned. If it is not, you will see a tremendous difference in how your broadhead flies, even your mechanicals. Now, the whole thing about mechanicals in the first place was we wanted to have something in archery that flew as well as this, so we went to mechanical style broadheads that were aerodynamic, the blades were closed, some of them are totally hidden by the tips. We wanted something that was exactly like a field tip, and so it would fly like your field tip, especially at long ranges. So the birth of the mechanical broadhead was born. And then later on, you started to get hybrid designs like the Afflictor, where we have drive key technology. This is Afflictor K2 hybrid. When the drive key is activated, you now have a locked fixed blade with an 1 3/4 cut. This happens at entrance. As it comes in, before the blades have even gotten into the skin, they're already activated and locked. So this hybrid design is very good, flies true, and of course makes a massive entrance wound and exit wound. So when you're talking about mechanicals, the whole idea behind them was to fly like your field tip. But they don't all the time, so why? So let's talk about that. One of the reasons that you will find that your broadhead, whether it's hybrid or fixed, does not fly as well as your field tips is simply because your bow is out of tune. Could be a cam issue, could be a rest issue, anything along that nature. You could also be hitting your fletching, not clearing your rest. Maybe your fletching isn't clearing your cables. So what happens is when you're shooting a field tip, your fletching corrects all the mistakes from you, the shooter, from your arrow, and from your bow. So the idea is these vanes stabilize your arrow in flight. Now, when you add any type of rutter, or however you want to put this, airplane wings, some people will call it, at the front, now what happens is the broadhead wants to steer against the fletching. So that's the reason that it does not fly like your field tip. Now, it will, if your arrow is tuned and your bow is tuned, you can eliminate that because you're not depending on your fletching to do all the work. You're in tune. Everything is flying perfectly. So it's very important to not only paper tune your arrow, but also to bare shaft tune. It'll give you a great idea of what is going wrong. And then that'll allow you to make subtle differences on your rest. Maybe your knocking point is off. All those things that when you group your field tips and it all looks perfect, it's great, but the fletching has done all the work for you. So there's no resistance up front, nothing to go wrong up here, and the fletching can do its job on your arrow, so you get good grouping. The second you change that, things can go haywire if you're not in tune. Even with a hybrid or a mechanical broadhead, you have extended the length, so your field tips are short, you've extended your length, you've changed your FOC, you've changed your balancing point. This is very important to keep in mind. When you change the balancing point of your arrow, you have changed the distance that your fletching is allowed to make a correction. So it's very important to understand that even the length, any grains up here, anything that you changed beyond your field tip is going to change your arrow, can even change the spine of your arrow. So some things to consider if you're having trouble getting your hybrid, your mechanical, or your fixed blade to shoot. Now, at Afflictor, we have a special design tip. It's oversized, it hides and protects our blades on our hybrids, and then our fixed blades, It cuts through the air and is very aerodynamic in such a way where we get excellent flight all the time out of crossbows, compounds, and recurves. So as you shoot these, you'll see that they do fly very well. But again, we get calls all the time, I'm having trouble getting things sighted in. And it always turns out to be a bow issue, an arrow issue, and occasionally a fletching issue. So let's talk real quick about fletching issues. A lot of vanes are straight fletched like this. Some have a slight offset, and some are helical. You'll see a lot of people really pounding home helicals being a wonderful thing. A 3 to 4 degree helical is good. It spins your arrow like a football. It helps the fletching go ahead and get your arrow stabilized a little faster. However, if your bow or arrow is out of tune, it'll also throw things off faster. It allows that rudder at the end to take more control. This doesn't do a job, and it'll actually veer off even faster, where you can actually miss a target at 20 yards with a steep helical. So you got to be really careful with steep helicals, in my opinion, when you're going ahead and tuning that with your broadheads, especially on fixed and some of the really big fixed. I really like the blazer style vanes with a slight offset. I also like 4-inch vanes and bigger vanes with a slight offset. That's been my go-to for everything, and I really don't have any problem. But I've also taken the time to bare shaft tune my bow, to paper tune, and to make sure my cams are in time and that everything lines up. If you do those few steps, you will see a really big difference in your setup from your field tips, how your broadheads are going to fly. So we're out in the field, we're going to do a little shooting. We're going to see how the afflictors fly against the field tip. We're going to be shooting at 20 yards. Now we're going to shoot the K2 fixed. Now we're going to shoot the K2 hybrid. So you can see here at 20 yards, the K2 hybrid basically scratched the shaft of our field tip right down alongside it. So I'll have to make sure I inspect that, make sure I didn't get a fracture or cut in the carbon. The K2 fix was just a little bit low, maybe about 1.5 inches. These are brand new arrows, so I have not had a chance to tune these at all. And so I think after a little bit of tuning, I think we can make this fixed, hit right in alongside these other 2 arrows. Hey, thanks for tuning in today. If you have any questions, make sure you drop them in the comments. Also give us a thumbs up and give us a follow. It really helps us out. Any other questions, you can email us or call us at any time.